Hello. Well, we are in Joshua, the book of Joshua, Old Testament, and we have really gone through it, and it's really been fun. I've really enjoyed this a lot. We're on chapter 21 and 22 today, and then we'll finish up next week with chapter 23 and 24, and then we've finished the whole book of Joshua. It's been great. I've loved it. I think today's lesson is even going to be greater. I can't wait to teach this. I think you'll really like it. So let's get started. Let me give you some background. The first chapter 21 verse 1 says, "Then the heads of the household of the Levites approached Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the households of the tribes of the sons of Israel." So all of the heads of the authority of the tribes, all the leadership is together. And what they're going to do, verse 2, "And they spoke to them at Shiloh." Remember, Shiloh was the new headquarters. That's where the tabernacle, God had told them to move everything, the tabernacle, everything. That's the headquarters. That's where the sacrifices will be made. You cannot, according to God's law, he didn't authorize any other altar to make sacrifices at, except in Shiloh. So that's the background. So they want to give the Levites, which is the priestly group of the nation of Israel, they weren't allowed to have their own province or land, but they could share lands. And so other tribes donated some land to the Levites, and they were on a rotating basis. So they would rotate a total of like 48 cities. And the reason they did that is the Levites were the teachers of the law. And so they wanted to make sure all the tribes of Israel had access to that. So that's why they gave so many cities access to the Levites, 48 cities, that they could go in and teach and preach and basically teach them about God. Let me give you a background on Levi. Levi and Simeon, those two tribes, did a really bad thing. Their sister, Diana, was raped by a group of men, and these two tribes heard about it and actually went into that city and killed every single person. And that did not sit well with God. They didn't go to God and ask, by the way. They just did it as a revenge. So Simeon, they didn't fare well. But the Levites went back to God and basically asked for forgiveness and that they would do anything for God. And so God sort of put his hand on the Levites and gave them a real high position within the tabernacle. And of course, part of it was rotating teachings about the law. So now we're to the Levites and where they're going and what they were required to do. So let's keep going. Number 3. So the sons of Israel gave the Levites from their inheritance these cities from their pasture lands according to the command of the Lord. There were 48 cities in pasture lands because, again, Levites were not given their own providence because of the slaughtering of those people in that city. So let's go on to 4. Then the lot came out for the families of the Kohites. Kohites was a big portion, a family, huge. Underneath that was the, let's see, they were the Gishons, the Merari, and also the, let me look real quick. Well, that was the bulk of it. And then here's what I'm going to do. Chapter 21 again goes back into very soon here. Just details of the cities and what was in it and how many were given. And I'm going to skip that part. You can always read it yourself, but it just takes too long. It's just adding up the 48 cities. So I sort of shortcut it and just told you it would be 48 cities. In the sons of Aaron. Aaron, Gershon, there's just a number of other tribes underneath the bigger tribe of Kohath. I hope I'm making sense. But anyway, then we're going to skip over. Well, let me just go to this. The Kohaths were responsible for the care of the sanctuary and the Ark of the Covenant. That's a big deal. It's also, that's part of the Levite family, or the priests, to take care of everything. There were at least 3 divisions of tribes underneath that, which this section goes through each and every one of them. Like the Gershon, they were responsible for transporting of the coverings, the tabernacle coverings and curtains. Because if they moved to different areas to sacrifice, they were responsible for that. And the Merari, they were responsible as the actual guardian. They guarded the tabernacle. So it will go into all that. I don't want to do that. So what I do want to do is go down to, in chapter 21, verse 41 and 42 are the most important, because that's summarizing what I just told you. So 41, all the cities of the Levites in the midst of the possession of the sons of Israel were 48 cities and their pasture lands. All of those 2 pages of all the cities and going into how big the cities were and how many people were coming out of that. That's it. 48 cities were given to the Levites, the priests, so they could go in and spread the gospel or the law. These were active teachings of the Levites, priests, and they tried to evenly distribute them so that everybody had access. There was a note I put, compare all this with Jesus. And one thing I put, every promise is true with Jesus. Every promise God gave to the Israeli nation came true. He gave them the land. He gave them everything that he told them that he would give them. He did. Jesus did the same thing. Everything he told us he would give us, he did. He gave his life for us. He gave his life so that we don't have to suffer for the sins that we all have committed. And some of them are bad. We have a special inheritance in Jesus. And the Levites had a special inheritance because of their willingness to obey God and come back to him. So I just see a lot of similarities. The next chapter is really, I think, important. But let's finish with 41. Let's go to 42. These cities each had a surrounding pasture. Thus it was with all these cities. So the Lord gave to Israel all the land which he had sworn to give to the fathers, and they possessed it and lived in it. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, according to all that he had sworn to the fathers, and no one of all their enemies stood before them. The Lord gave all their enemies into their hands. God is true to us. He's faithful. If he says something, he's faithful to do it. Not one of the good promises which the Lord had made to the house of Israel failed. All came to pass. One interesting thing I ran into was that, for Passover, in the tabernacle, they all had to stand and eat, standing, eating with one hand and holding their staff with the other. That was laid out in Deuteronomy for them to do this. But once everyone got their land and all the tabernacle was set up in Shiloh, the altar was made, then there was a rest. God talks about this rest that he was in 44 that he was given. They were permitted then to recline while they were doing Passover, eating and praising God. They were allowed to recline during the meal. Before, they had to stand. So things were getting back to normal for the Israelis. Now let's go to chapter 22. Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half of the Manasseh. These three groups were the soldiers of the group, of all the nation. They were the hardest soldiers. And they, remember, half of them wanted to stay on the east side of the Jordan River. The other half wanted to go on the west with the rest of the tribes. But there was a rogue group that did not want to do that. They wanted to stay on the east side. And God permitted it. So did Moses. And they said to them, you have kept all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and you have listened to my voice in all that I have commanded you. God has given him Reuben, Gadites, and Manasseh a compliment. He was like, you've done everything I've asked you to do. 3, you have not forsaken your brothers these many days to this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your brothers, as he spoke to them. Therefore, turn now and go to your tents. He's given them permission now, God is, through Joshua, to go back to the eastern side of the Jordan, leave the western side with the group, the nation of Israel fighting group. You can go back to the east side, where the land that you had chosen. Go back now, go to your tents, to the land of your possession, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you beyond the Jordan. Only be careful to observe the commandments, pardon me, and the law which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God and walk in all his ways and keep his commandments and hold fast to him and serve him with all your heart, with all your soul. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can find a throat lozenge real quick. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but you take a little sip. Maybe that'll do it. Sometimes a little sip and blow your nose, and you're back to business. So I'm going to do that. Sorry. I'll try not to blow my nose too much in front of you. All right, let's keep going. This is some good stuff. Okay. So basically, Joshua says, you're permitted to go back to the east side, those 3 tribes, Reuben, Gad, half of Manasseh. But he warned them. It was a warning. Stay close to God. Don't go against God, because if you do, it affects our whole tribes. So don't do that. And he said, basically in these sentences, in these verses, true love can be commanded. And that's what Joshua was doing, commanding them to stay close to God, hold fast to the commandments that God laid out for them. And he said, hear God, love him, and live in obedience. Avoid heresy and legalism. And to bring it more practical, legalism is, the Catholic Church has a lot of legalism. It's man-made rules. They're not in the Bible. No matter what you do, you can't find them in here. And I was raised Baptist. Talk about legalism. Like, you weren't allowed to wear pants as a woman. In fact, you were criticized if you did. Again, is there any place in here that says that? No. So let's go on. That's legalism, and you want to avoid that at all costs. Stick with the Bible. I tell people, question things. Don't feel bad if you question positions of religious authority, God's authority. Don't feel bad about asking about that. But find the answer, because it's in the Bible. And it's so easy to find now with the internet. You just Google, and you can get all kinds of information. Let's go on. Verse 6. Sorry about this, but otherwise I'm going to be coughing. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went on to their tents. Now, to the one half of the Manasseh, Moses had given a possession in Bashan, but to the other half he gave the possession among their brothers westward beyond the Jordan. So when Joshua sent them on their way to their tent, he blessed them, said to them, return to your tents with great riches, and with much livestock, silver, gold, bronze. They didn't go back poor. They came over poor, but just like God promised. He was so faithful. They each prospered. Each tribe, each individual tribe and persons went back, like the Manasseh, half of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, they were going back to the east side. But he said, take all this with you. Livestock, silver, gold, bronze, iron, all the clothes. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brothers. So if there was land where they were granted, and somebody was living on it, you were going to conquer it. God said, conquer it, but the spoils that you get, spread it among all your brethren. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh returned home and departed from the sons of Israel at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the land of Gilead, to the land of their possession, which they had possessed according to the commandment of the Lord through Moses. And just think, they were real warriors, and they had been together 7 years fighting for the land, access to the land. It was emotional for them to part with their brothers. They fought side by side, conquering. God was right there with them. But they wanted to go back to the land they had chosen. And Joshua approved it. Let's go on to 10. And when they came to the region of the Jordan, which is the land of Canaan, and the sons of Reuben and sons of Gad, the half tribe of Manasseh, built an altar there by the Jordan, a large altar in appearance. So on their way back to the east side of the Jordan River, on the west side, they built a huge, from history, it's enormous altar to God. Now, one of the rules of God was that He would approve one altar for sacrifice. You couldn't have any other altar. It's the one He told you where to put it. This is what you're going to do. And you were not permitted to build another altar. It's just not permitted. But yet, these three tribes, on their way to the east, they weren't to the east yet. They were still on the west side of the Jordan. Said, let's build a huge altar. Huge. So that we can see it from the east. Over to the west. Number 11. The sons of Israel heard about it. This is a practical lesson. When you hear about something, you don't get it directly from the people, what is that called? Gossip. Rumors. And we've all lived where gossip and rumors have hurt us. And said, behold, the sons of Reuben and Gad and half Manasseh have built an altar at the frontier of the land of the Canaan, in the region of the Jordan, on the side belonging to the sons of Israel. So they're saying they didn't build it on the east side. They built it on the west side with the rest of Israel. Number 12. When the sons of Israel heard of it, the whole congregation of the sons of Israel gathered themselves in Shiloh to go up against them in war. Hope you got your Bible with you so you can take notes. I told you mine. It's a mess. So they were acting on a rumor. They decided they were going to go to war against their own brethren, because they had heard through a rumor that they had built an altar in competition with the altar that God had set up in Shiloh for sacrifice. That's a big deal, not to be, using an altar for sacrifice unless God has approved that. We might note that nowhere in the scripture here does it say that the sons of Israel consulted Eleazar, the high priest, each tribe member of the tribes, the head of them, or God. They didn't even go to God and say, hey, what's the deal? Nope. They put on their war paint, got their weapons ready, and they were going to go try to slaughter them. The reason why is if, in fact, they had built an altar against God's proper building of one, it could affect every single tribe. They've learned that God can kill every single one of them for one of them doing something wrong. Remember Achan? He stole stuff out of I think it was Jericho. And he hid it under his tent. Well, he was killed and his entire family was killed because they had disobeyed God. So, let's keep going. Then the sons of Israel sent to the sons of Reuben and Gad and Manasseh into the land of Gilead Phinehas, who's the son of Eleazar. So they are sending a young priest to investigate what's going on here. They feared that Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh had built a pagan god altar, an unauthorized altar of Yahweh. So they had gathered up. They were going to go to war with them and kill them over that. And in one hand, that's a really good thing because they were standing up for God. On the other hand, they were acting on the basis of a rumor. They had not even talked to God, to the leadership, or to the 3 tribes that were over in the east side of Jordan. So let's read on. And with him 10 chiefs, 1 chief for each father's household, from each of the tribes of Israel, and each one of them was the head of his father's household among the thousands of Israel. And they came to the sons of Reuben, and to the sons of Gad, to the sons of half of Manasseh, to the land of Gilead, and they spoke with them. That's the first rule. Isn't this true, practically? You've heard rumors, somebody said something about you, or you've heard something about somebody else, and you're like first very offended, or just can't believe it. The first rule is go talk to that person. I do that all the time. If I hear a rumor about something, I go to the person and say, listen, I'm hearing stuff. Can you tell me what you think? Have I offended you? Or I hit it right away. With kindness, go in and blast somebody. Number 16, thus says the whole congregation of the Lord, what is the unfaithful act which you have committed against the God of Israel? See, they're upholding God. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with them. The intent was they did not want to be killed for an infraction of another tribe. Let's see, where are we? What is the unfaithful act which you have committed against God of Israel, turning away from following the Lord this day by building yourself an altar to rebel against the Lord this day? They came right out, very direct. This is why we're all upset. This is why we're here. 17. Is not the iniquity of Peorah, and Peorah was a place of high idolatry and disobedience, and God just wiped them out. And so Israelis are like, we don't want that. We don't want to be wiped out for something you've done against God. for which we have not cleansed ourselves to this day, although the plague came on the congregation of the Lord, that you must turn away this day from following the Lord. And it will come about, if you rebel against the Lord today, that he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel tomorrow. In that Peor, 24,000 people were killed. God is just not going to put up with them. Disobedience. Number 19. If, however, the land you possess is unclean, then cross into the land of possession of the Lord, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and take possession among us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, or rebel against us by building an altar for yourself beside the altar of the Lord our God. I like this because they didn't jump in there and say, you did this. They said, if this is what you're doing, we're willing to sacrifice and give up our land. Come on back over. Your land may be, what was the word they used? Unclean. And if that's the case, come over with us. We'll share our land. But we don't want you to take us all down. So we're willing to share. So they thought that the altar that was built was enormous, enormous. You could see it forever, miles away. It was in competition with the sacrifice altar of Shiloh. It was not. But they didn't know that yet. All right, so now we're on verse 20. Did not Achan the son of Zerah act unfaithfully in the things under the ban, with wrath fall on which the congregation of Israel, and that man did not perish alone in his iniquity? Remember Achan, he got killed and his whole family, including his children, for disobeying God. And then hiding it, lying about it, until he was faced directly. And then he was sorry. Of course, you're always sorry. Good intentions lead to false accusations often. So let's go on to 21. Then the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh answered. They finally got to speak. They were listening the whole time. Let that be a lesson. You don't start fighting back. You listen to what they're saying. A conversation. Even if you don't like what they're saying, listen first. Your time to answer will come. And now it's it. And what do they do first in verse 22? I love this. They appeal to God first. Listen to this. The mighty one, God the Lord. The mighty one, God the Lord. He knows, and may Israel know itself know. If it was a rebellion, and if in an unfaithful act against the Lord, do not thou save us this day. They were actually saying, God, kill us. If this was what we were doing in our minds, kill us. We did not think we were doing it. We did it for a different reason. But if this is what you think we're doing, kill us. That's pretty dramatic. 23. If we have built us an altar to turn away from the following of the Lord, and if to offer a burnt offering or grain offering on it, or if to offer sacrifices of peace offerings on it, may the Lord himself require an accounting. It says himself require it, which is an accounting. God knows. He knows the minds. So he knows whether or not what their intent was. 24. But truly we have done this out of concern. That's their reasons right there. Saying, in time to come, to your sons, may say to our sons, what have you to do with the Lord, the God of Israel? For the Lord has made the Jordan River between us, your sons, the Reuben, Gads, Manasseh, and the other tribe on the western side. Therefore we say, let us build an altar, not for burnt offerings or sacrifice, rather it will be a witness between us between our generations. So what they were trying to do is build a memorial to link the tribes together. Some of the tribes were on the east side, some of the tribes were on the west side, and the Jordan was in the middle, Jordan River. So they wanted their children to look out and see this memorial or this altar, this witness that they are together and they have only one God, God of Israel. It's pretty dramatic. I just love it. Let's keep going. We're almost finished. I think we're on 28. Therefore we said, it shall also come about, if they say this to us or to our generation in time to come, then we shall say, see the copy or the replica of the altar of the Lord, which our fathers made, not for burnt offering, not for sacrifice, rather it is a witness between us and you. One of the kids, they were teaching the children that the tribes of Israel were all one nation, even though one is on one half of the river and the other's on the other half. So unity, they were building an altar for unity as a witness. Number 29, far be it from us that we should rebel against the Lord and turn away from following the Lord this day by building an altar for burnt offerings, grain offerings, sacrifice besides the altar of the Lord our God, which is before his tabernacle in Shiloh. So when Phinehas, the priest and the leaders of the congregation, even the heads of the families of Israel who were with him, heard the words, now they're actually hearing it from the goose, his own mouth, that they didn't build it for the purposes of competing with the altar in Shiloh. Which sons of Reuben, sons of Gad, sons of Manasseh spoke. It pleased them. They liked what they heard. They believed them, that it was an altar for witnessing to their children that the tribes on the east side and the west side still were one nation of Israel. So I love that. I just love what they did. And a practical application is, don't gossip. Don't spread rumors. Just don't do that. Let's keep going. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, said to the sons of Reuben and Gad and Manasseh, today we know that the Lord is in our midst, because you have not committed this unfaithful act against the Lord. Now you have delivered the sons of Israel from the hands of the Lord. Then Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, goes over and over. The leaders returned from the sons of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, and brought back word to them. And the word pleased the sons of Israel, and the sons of Israel blessed God. And they did not speak of going up against them in war to destroy the land in which the sons of Reuben, Gad were living. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad called the altar Witness. For they said, it is a witness between us that the Lord is our God. Don't you just love that? It was a little longer today. It's a little over 30 minutes. But this was, I thought, such a good lesson and a reminder to me. And I have just a quick, here's how we respond to rumors or misunderstanding. You have the right to respond with concern for God's holiness. Question that. If you think there's a question with a family, friend, or even your church, question it. Do it with love. Respond with directness and clarity, just like they did. Hey, are you doing it for these reasons? The right to respond with courage, to confront, but with love. The right to attempt to reconcile before fighting. Oh, always attempt to reconcile before fighting. Always. The right to sacrifice to help those we believe is in error. They were willing to give up land, their own land, to help save Israel from the eastern border, Israel, from doing something wrong that would affect everyone with their disobedience to God. But as it turns out, that wasn't the reasons. Again, a lesson to be learned. Also, you have the right to see the perspective of the other person. Ask them what their perspective is. That avoids so many problems. And the last, you have the right to see the best of another person, which I love to do. All right, we are finished with this lesson. Next week we'll do 23 and 24. You have a great week.